Welcome, everyone, to vpod.ai. I'm your host, Mike, and sitting across from me today is our guest expert, Susan.
Hey, it's wonderful to be here. We really have some truly fascinating stuff to cover today.
We absolutely do. But first, you can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit vpod.ai to get started today.
It's a great deal, honestly.
Right. So, okay, let's just jump right in. I want you, the listener, to take a second and think about the last hot meal you ordered that came in, like a plastic takeout container.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there recently, I'm sure.
Exactly. It's just, picture it sitting there on your kitchen counter, all that steam rising off the food. You probably thought you were just, well, sitting down to eat dinner.
Right, just a normal meal.
But on a microscopic level, you were likely eating the container itself.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate reality.
So today our mission is to really unpack this startling reality of microplastic consumption here in the United States. And we're basing this on recent medical consultations and, frankly, some truly eye-opening research.
It's wild. It completely reframes how we look at something as, fundamental as just getting human nourishment.
I mean, it really does.
Because we tend to view our environment and our food as these two totally separate entities, right? Like the food is safe in the box, but the data we're looking at today proves that line has just, well, it's completely blurred.
Okay, so let's unpack this because the foundational statistic here is honestly just staggering to me.
Yeah, the numbers are huge.
The research shows that people in the U.S. are consuming between 39,000 and 52,000 microplastic particles every single year.
Yeah, just let that settle for a second. Up to 52,000 individual particles.
That is insane.
And, that's actually a conservative estimate, too. It's just based on the current limitations of our testing equipment.
Okay, I was actually trying to wrap my head around that volume before we started recording.
It's hard to visualize, right?
It really is. So I did some math. If you sat down and literally ate one particle every second, it would take you over 14 hours straight just to hit the high end of that yearly average.
Oh, wow. 14 hours of just eating plastic, one piece per second. That math really puts the sheer scale of the exposure into perspective.
Right. But here's where I have to push back a little bit, or at least, admit my own confusion on this.
Sure, what's the hang-up?
Because if I'm eating that much of something, how on earth am I not noticing it?
Ah, right, the sensory aspect.
Yeah. Like if there's a single tiny grain of sand in my salad, I feel it immediately. My teeth catch it, I can taste it, it ruins a bite.
Oh, absolutely. The crunch is awful.
Right. So how can we be eating tens of thousands of pieces of literal plastic without ever tasting it or, feeling it or crunching down on it?
Well, it really comes down to human biology and the physical limitations of our own sensory hardware.
Okay, sensory hardware.
Yeah, like when you bite into a grain of sand, you're dealing with something that is usually between, say, 1/10 of a millimeter and 2 millimeters wide.
Which is pretty small, but noticeable.
Right. And your mechanoreceptors, those are the sensory nerves in your mouth and your teeth. They are highly evolved to detect exactly that.
To keep us from breaking a tooth, basically.
Exactly. But the plastics we are talking about here, they've degraded down to the micro and nano scale.
So they are basically operating way below our body's radar.
Entirely. I mean, think about a human hair. It's roughly 70 to 100 microns thick.
Okay, a hair is super thin.
Right, but many of the microplastics we ingest are 5 microns or even smaller.
Wait, 5?
Yeah, 5. And nanoplastics are even smaller than that. They're measured in billionths of a meter. We simply do not possess the biological security systems to detect them.
They just slip right past everything.
They slip right past our taste buds and nerves because they're physically smaller than the sensory threshold required to even trigger a neurological response.
Man, that is both fascinating and genuinely terrifying at the same time.
It is a bit unsettling, yeah.
If I can't taste 50,000 particles of plastic, it means they are completely bypassing my body's natural defense systems.
Exactly. You don't even know it's happening.
But okay, for them to get past my taste buds in the first place, they have to be coming from things I already trust implicitly.
Right. The delivery mechanisms.
Which brings us to the vectors. How are these invisible fragments actually getting into our bodies?
So the research points directly to the tools we use every single day. We really have to look at the mechanics of our everyday kitchen items and those takeout storage containers we mentioned.
And this is where it gets really interesting and honestly incredibly ironic.
Oh, the irony's massive.
We use plastic takeout containers to transport our food safely, right? And we use like plastic spatulas and cutting boards to prepare our meals hygienically.
Yeah, that's supposed to be sanitary.
Exactly. The entire purpose of these items is food safety and cleanliness. Yet, they're actually the very things shedding particles right into our meals.
That's exactly what's happening.
It's like we are basically trading long-term health for the short-term convenience of a shatterproof bowl.
It's a profound irony. The systems we engineered to protect our nourishment have basically become the primary vectors for its contamination.
So how does it actually happen? Like, physically?
To understand that, you have to think of a plastic container or a spatula not as a solid, impenetrable piece of material.
Okay, what should I think of it as?
Think of it more like a tightly knitted wool sweater.
A wool sweater. Okay, I'm visualizing it.
So plastic is made of polymers, which are essentially these long chains of molecules bound together.
Right.
When you apply heat or mechanical stress to that polymer network, it acts just like throwing that delicate wool sweater into a harsh, high-heat dryer.
Oh, it ruins it.
Exactly. The structural bonds weaken, the fibers loosen, they fray, and they start leaving microscopic lint all over everything.
Okay, so when I pour, like, piping hot soup into a plastic clamshell container,
The thermal energy from that soup transfers directly into the plastic.
and that melts it.
Not melting exactly, but that heat increases the kinetic energy of the polymer chains. It weakens the chemical bonds holding the container together.
Wow.
And so microscopic fragments, that plastic lint we talked about, they slough off directly into the broth.
That is so gross. But what about cold stuff, like cutting boards?
Right. The same thing happens with mechanical stress. Every time you drag a metal knife across a polyethylene cutting board, you are physically shearing those polymer bonds.
You know, I've definitely noticed little grooves appearing on my cutting boards over time.
Most people do. And those grooves represent missing plastic.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that material didn't just vanish into the ether. It went into whatever you were chopping and eventually into you.
That is wild.
A recent study actually demonstrated that chopping vegetables on a plastic board can produce tens of millions of microplastics every single year.
Millions. Just from prepping dinner.
Just from making a salad, yeah.
That completely changes how I look at my cupboards. I mean, it makes me want to throw out every single plastic utensil I own and switch entirely to wood, glass, and stainless steel.
And honestly, swapping out your kitchenware is actually one of the most effective proactive steps you can take to mitigate your personal exposure.
Really. Just tossing the plastic spatulas.
Yeah, you're removing a massive variable from the equation right there.
But okay, let's follow that logic to its conclusion. Let's say I do that. Let's say I purge the kitchen entirely.
Okay, full glass and steel.
Right. I go full glass and steel, and I swear off takeout containers for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
According to the research, I still wouldn't be safe, would I?
Unfortunately, no, you wouldn't.
Because it's bigger than just my kitchen.
Right. Purging the kitchen eliminates the plastics you are adding to your food during preparation, but it does not address the plastics that are already in the food before it even crosses your threshold.
Because the environment itself is compromised. We are talking about the water supply and the whole agricultural loop.
Exactly. It's systemic.
And this is the part of the data that really stopped me in my tracks. The researchers actually consulted with medical doctors to identify the specific common foods that are most likely to harbor these microplastics.
Yes, they're building a literal roadmap of risk.
The fact that they brought in the medical community elevates this, right?
Yes.
It takes it from an environmental concern to an immediate public health issue.
Oh, without a doubt. Doctors are trying to map an entirely new kind of dietary landscape because the ubiquity of these particles is just astonishing.
So where do we even start with that map?
Let's start with the most fundamental vector of all, drinking water.
Right. Because if it's in the water, I mean, it's everywhere.
Exactly.
But the research made a massive distinction between tap water and bottled water, didn't it?
The disparity is staggering, honestly. While tap water does contain microplastics, mostly from degraded infrastructure and environmental runoff, bottled water contains significantly higher concentrations.
And why is that? Just the bottle itself?
It comes back to the manufacturing process and the packaging. The physical act of capping a plastic water bottle at the factory.
Oh, the twisting.
Yes, and then the friction of you twisting that cap off when you open it, that sheds thousands of microscopic particles directly into the liquid.
So the very act of opening the bottle creates the contamination.
You are essentially drinking the packaging, yeah.
That is wild. I'm never looking at a water bottle the same way. But okay, let's look at the food itself. What are these specific high-risk foods that doctors and researchers are waving red flags about?
Shellfish is consistently at the top of the list, particularly bivalves, like oysters, clams, and mussels.
Okay, let's think about why that is for a second. These are filter feeders, right?
Exactly.
They survive by constantly drawing ocean water through their bodies to extract plankton and nutrients.
They are essentially the ocean's vacuum cleaners. I mean, an adult oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water a day.
That's a lot of water.
It is. But because our oceans are heavily saturated with degraded plastic waste, these bivalves are filtering those microplastics right alongside their natural food.
It just stays in them.
Yes, the plastics become trapped in their digestive tracts and their tissues. And because we eat shellfish whole lean, unlike a fish where we remove the digestive tract, we consume every single particle that the animal managed to filter out of the ocean.
Hello. We are basically eating the ocean's water filters.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
That paints a very clear and slightly unappetizing picture. What else is on the high-risk list?
Sea salt is another major vector.
Sea salt.
Yeah.
Really? Because people usually buy sea salt because it's marketed as this premium, natural alternative to standard table salt.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive. But the mechanism of production is the vulnerability here.
How so?
Sea salt is created through the evaporation of ocean water, right?
Right.
When the water evaporates, it leaves behind the sodium chloride, the salt, but it also leaves behind whatever else was suspended in that water.
And the ocean is full of plastic.
Exactly. Since the oceans are carrying a heavy load of microplastics, those tiny polymer fragments are crystallized right into the salt flakes.
Yeah.
So when you season your food, you're just sprinkling on a light dusting of oceanic plastic.
It is incredible how the manufacturing processes we rely on are inadvertently concentrating the problem.
It really is a compounding issue.
But, the one that really shocked me wasn't from the ocean at all. It was from the produce aisle.
The apples.
Yes. The researchers identified apples and root vegetables as significant carriers. How on earth does a plastic bottle degrade in the ocean and end up inside an apple on a tree?
This highlights the true systemic nature of the crisis. It involves agricultural runoff, wastewater treatment, and just basic plant biology.
Okay, break that down for me.
So when plastic waste breaks down in soil, often from agricultural plastics used in farming or from treated sewage sludge used as fertilizer, it degrades into nanoplastics.
Right, the really, really small ones.
Yes. These particles are so unimaginably small that they can actually breach the biological barriers of plant roots.
Wait. They pass through the roots themselves.
They do. Through the process of capillary action, plants draw water and nutrients up from the soil.
Right, to grow.
Well, the nanoplastics are small enough to hitch a ride in that water. They travel up through the xylem, that's the vascular system of the plant.
Unbelievable.
And they get distributed throughout the stems, the leaves, and eventually the fruit itself.
So root vegetables, like carrots.
Carrots and radishes accumulate high concentrations simply because they grow directly in the contaminated soil.
But the apple.
But in the case of an apple, yeah, the plastic is literally built into the cellular structure of the fruit as it grows on the branch.
So you can't just wash the apple. You can't scrub it off.
No amount of scrubbing will help.
It is biologically integrated into the flesh of the fruit.
The contamination is internal. This is a profound shift in how we understand our exposure. It's no longer just about the wrapper the food comes in. It's about the structural composition of the food itself.
Man, if we zoom out and look at this logically, it raises a massive, almost existential question.
It definitely feels that way.
I mean, if the water we drink is compromised, if the salt we use to flavor our meals is tainted, and if the very apples growing on trees have plastic inside their cellular structure,
Yeah.
how are we supposed to navigate modern life?
It's daunting.
You can't just stop drinking water. You can't just stop eating produce. It feels like we are completely surrounded and, frankly, a bit trapped.
Yeah, the sheer scale of the environmental loop can definitely induce a sense of paralysis.
For sure.
But we really have to look at the primary goal of this research. The medical community isn't compiling these lists to induce panic.
Right.
They are identifying these vectors to help people construct practical, actionable strategies for risk reduction.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening to this right now? Because it is incredibly easy to hear about 52,000 invisible particles, picture plastic inside an apple, and just throw your hands up in defeat.
Which is the natural reaction.
But you shouldn't feel overwhelmed by this. You should feel empowered.
Exactly. Knowledge fundamentally shifts the power dynamic.
How so?
Well, a threat you cannot see and do not understand is a constant danger. But a threat you understand and can measure, that becomes a variable you can manage.
Yes, knowing that doctors have actively researched which specific foods carry the highest risk gives us a roadmap. It gives us a way to make better, more informed dietary choices.
We know the mechanisms now.
Right. We know how the heat affects the plastic containers. We know how the friction degrades the cutting boards.
And by identifying those highest risk vectors, we can drastically reduce our cumulative personal intake.
So we can't get to zero.
No, it is virtually impossible to achieve a zero plastic diet in the modern world. The environmental baseline just makes that a statistical impossibility. But moving from that high end of 52,000 particles down to a fraction of that number, that is entirely within our control.
It is about mitigation, not perfection.
Perfectly said.
You don't have to stop eating apples, but maybe you swap out that plastic cutting board for a wooden one.
Exactly.
Maybe you filter your tap water instead of buying it in single-use plastic bottles. Maybe you rethink the frequency of shellfish in your diet, or just, transfer your takeout into a glass bowl before you microwave it.
Those micro adjustments compound over time. By questioning our habitual reliance on convenience, we disrupt the most direct pathways of exposure.
It makes a real difference.
And it does. When doctors are brought in to consult on which foods to avoid, it validates that our daily localized choices have a measurable impact on our biological health.
We are taking a threat that is physically invisible and just dragging it right out into the light.
And once you see the pattern, you really can't unsee it.
Recognizing the pattern is the first necessary step to adapting to it.
Totally agree.
So, to summarize the incredible terrain we've navigated today, we are dealing with a reality where the average person in the U.S. is unknowingly consuming tens of thousands of microplastic particles annually.
A phenomenon facilitated by the microscopic and nanoscopic scale of the particles, which allows them to bypass our evolutionary sensory defenses.
And we've uncovered the surprising mechanisms lurking in our own kitchens, where the heat and friction applied to everyday tools and takeout containers break down polymer chains, shedding plastic lint right into our meals.
Right, and we have acknowledged the complex environmental loop where microplastics are absorbed into our water supply, filtered by ocean life like shellfish, crystallized in sea salt, and even drawn up through the vascular systems of our agricultural produce.
It has been a truly perspective-shifting conversation. We know the medical community is hard at work identifying these high-risk vectors so we can make better choices.
Absolutely are.
But as you sit down for your next meal, I want you to ask yourself a deeper question. What other invisible ingredients might be hiding in plain sight on your plate? And how much of the modern industrial world are you literally absorbing into your body every single day?
A profound and honestly necessary question to carry forward. It has been an absolute pleasure examining the science behind this with you.
Thank you all for joining us today. Keep asking the hard questions, stay curious about the world around you, and we will catch you next time.